Dr. Ray and Jean, what's up?
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
It's always good to run into a self-actualized couple that's happy. It's a rare thing on this planet, isn't it? Right?
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Few and far between.
It certainly is. Yeah, and I can tell by your pictures and everything. So it's wonderful. I mean, and that's the thing. And I know we're going to dive right in here, and it still blows me away. All of the paintings, all of the books, all of the songs, everything that we ingest, rom-coms, everything that we ingest is all about love and relationships, and we're so historically bad as humans at it.
Absolutely. Right.
How did that happen?
Well, just over time, we've warped the story.
Yeah.
The story of what it takes to actually have a happy and healthy relationship.
Or maybe we're creating the story. I mean, historically, marriages were arranged or they were bargaining deals and stuff. And our first relationship is parent-child. So who teaches us how to do this?
Yeah.
And
Very
so
true.
we're in a state where the community doesn't govern things so much. Like when my mom was, younger, she was going to be a stay-at-home mom. My dad was going to work. They had those roles. And now we're in the now what phase. And I think it's a higher level of relationship.
They're definitely much more complicated,
Yeah.
complex than before.
Well, and a part of it too is it's kind of like finances. There's things they just don't teach you in school. Like sex ed is this big laugh thing for a lot of kids. They don't,
Right.
The boys are giggling, the girls are already 2 or 3, 4 years ahead mature wise, and they're like, shut up. I mean, there's just this mentality, but it turns into this big like thing that it should be different. And relationships aren't taught, finances aren't taught. So the backbone of what we're supposed to do as adults
Mm-hmm.
to adults are really not even something that's a part of the curricula of our American fabric.
Absolutely. Right. They used to have home ec class.
Right.
Right. You had to babysit a sack of flour or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Just to get that feeling of having to be responsible for something. And then they've removed it
Yeah.
from our curriculum.
It's very strange. Yeah. And it's because of all the sensitivity and all of these things, and which is all going to trickle down and create a narrative.
Yeah.
I leaped ahead a little bit too quick here. Where are you coming out of?
We are in Western Colorado.
Oh, good for you. I just went to Castle Rock on vacation this summer.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And we have some friends up there. We love Colorado. It's just, in fact, I got remarried in 2019, and which is so much better to do it later in life because you figure out so many other things. But we were going to go to New Orleans for our honeymoon, and there was a hurricane brewing, so we ended up going to Manitou Springs, and we called it
Okay.
our Bob Ross Happy Accident honeymoon. But it was so much fun. We loved it, right there by Colorado Springs,
Yeah.
and just being in the midst of Garden of the Gods and all of that wonder was awesome.
So we're about 4.5 hours west of that. So we're on the other side of the state. If you know Grand Junction, which
Yes.
is like the big, okay, so we're about an hour southeast of there.
Okay. But it's just
Yeah.
good living up there. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful.
This picture behind us is actually our view that way.
oh, okay. Okay. I gotcha. Yeah. Well, and I'm in Kansas City, so we're landlocked,
Yeah.
but I will tell you secretly, and this probably shouldn't get out, but there was a part of me that was really happy that Denver beat Kansas City.
Really?
I'm just going to say it because of all of the jokes about Russell Wilson and just the whole rivalry and everything. It's like teams just need to have a reality checkpoint, not just for us, but for Denver too, because there's a lot of people. I mean, they're all human beings and they're all really feeling it, because of everything that's going on. So I feel for them as humans.
For sure. Yeah.
So before we continue this conversation about healthy relationships and good coupling, how did you do over the last 3.5 years with COVID? How did you get through it? And how did it change you?
It actually gave us the opportunity to move out to Colorado.
Okay.
We have a clinic in the Chicagoland area, and we've been running and managing that clinic for 25 years now. And, over the course of the last 4 years, 5 years, we incorporated Couple Synergy as a separate coaching company. And that's where our podcast is kind of hosted under that umbrella. And it allowed us to be able to provide our coaching program and coaching services worldwide. And so with lockdown and going to 100% virtual, that allowed us really to kind of spread our wings and not be tied to a geographical location.
The same with the podcast.
Yeah.
Because then we started interviewing people all over the world instead of just people we knew or who we could get on there. So it gave us that opportunity. We were already empty nesters. So we already just lived alone. And, so our lifestyle didn't change that drastically. Although if you go on our YouTube channel, you'll see that the beginning of lockdown, we decided to do Facebook Live meditation every day at 10 a.m. just to kind of help people get through this and some connection. And about 6 days in, he comes out in his bowling shirt. And I'm like, what do you get your bowling shirt on? He goes, I can't think of anything else to wear. And from that, we ended up making all these skits like Popeye and olive oil and the Matrix and all sorts of things. And so everyone was just kind of tuning in to see what we dressed up in and what we were doing. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Halloween every day. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
So the only real way that we should start this conversation is to find out how you met. How did this connection happen?
Okay. Yeah.
So what happened? How did the Big Bang Theory happen?
So that's 26 years ago. It's about 26 years ago now. So 26 years ago, we were both working in the mental health field, and we were working for a community mental health center at the time. Jean doesn't remember the first time we met, but I do. So she was already working at that community mental health center as a residential counselor at the time. And I interviewed, for a job counseling.
I had a hybrid between the two.
Okay. So I was interviewing for a job counselor position, and I was in the lobby talking to my soon to be boss, and I saw Jean walking down the hallway, and I was like, oh, wow, she's pretty cute. And she, came up, and my boss introduced me to her. And then, from then on, it was about a year, half a year of friendship.
So, well, let's give a little bit more background. So at the time I was 30 with a 10-year-old and he was 24.
Okay.
So
there you go.
Really
Context.
different stages of life. Yeah. However, because I had a child young, I was in the same place academically and career wise as he was.
Okay.
And so when we first met, you were coming off a relationship of 7 years, and you were kind of like just playing the field, and I wasn't dating. I was like, pretty standoffish about that kind of stuff. Because I had a kid, you can't just introduce people, too quickly. So we became friends, and we talk a lot after work. Mm-hmm. And then, because I was a single mom, I moved every year for like 9 years, and then I just bought a condo, and I always had fish tanks my whole life. And I was like, when I get this condo, I'm gonna get a saltwater tank. And so I would tell him about my saltwater tank. And then one day he put a note in my box and said, when can I come out and check out your saltwater tank? And then just thinking we're friends because we've just been hanging out and, all that. And then he came over and kissed me.
There you go. That's it. So,
and you haven't left since.
So what has been the key to you maintaining a healthy relationship? And I mean, because obviously, as we all know, relationships require a lot of work. What has been the key ingredient, the thing that is the glue that has held you two together for this whole time?
So one of the things we talk about with couples is that it's advantageous to move away from physical pain. So you get hurt by something physically, you move away from that. But when it comes to emotional pain, especially in a committed partnership, it's advantageous to move into it. And so a lot of the work that we do with couples, it prevents us from moving away from the emotional pain that we experience in our own relationship. We have to move into it. And it's really that moving into it where you learn and you heal and you grow together and you move on to that next stage. Most couples, they as a default move away from it, and then they don't actually heal. They get stuck. And then they're not able to evolve and grow.
There's a concept that every growth begins with a fall. And if you think about it, if you wanted to jump up onto a counter or table, you'd have to crouch down first. And that's what we feel first. We feel the frustration, we feel the disconnection, we feel the anger, the bickering, all that. And most people want to try to change that piece. I'm bickering because you didn't unload the dishwasher. Load it the proper way. That's my favorite. A lot of couples, you can't even load it proper. And they're fighting about stuff like that, but that's not really the issue. And so if they don't lean into it, you could get the dishwasher put in perfectly and do all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't change anything. And so that's really the skill of what we're talking about, is how do you recognize when you're in pain or your partner's in pain and use that as fertilizer. We know what fertilizer is made of, in order to grow. And it's not a lovely, fun thing to do. The result is, but it's the same way if you go to work out, that doesn't feel good, especially in the beginning when you're out of shape, but then it does. And so you got to do the work before you know what the payoff is.
So every day you wake up, there's all these things that you're looking forward to. Okay. And obviously, being in a good relationship, you look forward to seeing your mate. What is it for each of you that you look forward to the most about who you are? What do you look forward to respectively in each person every day that makes you feel good?
So Jean is a visionary, and she always has been throughout our entire relationship. So, when it comes to the new day that we are looking at, right, she is always has kind of this vision of what to create. And that has always been inspiring for me, right, is that we are creative beings. And when we stop creating, we start dying. And so for her inspiration, her visionary kind of aspect when it comes to life has always been something that helps drive me every day.
For me, I am one of 9 kids, but it was an interesting situation where 6 of them were boys. And then my older sister, who was 2 years older than me, all the other girls on the street were her age, and they wouldn't let me hang around with them. So I had a pretty lonely childhood.
Yeah.
And then I had a child very young in life, which is another pretty lonely experience. And as a single mom, put myself through college, and just kind of really driven. I'm just working and going to college, and not a lot of time, and it's pretty lonely. And the thing that I look forward to the most is, we have a habit, which is a habit we teach couples, a really good habit of holding each other first thing in the morning. And it's non-sexual. It's what we call heart-to-heart time. And it releases those bonding chemicals that make you feel connected in the world and safe in the world. And, like you're part of something. And when we have days where I can't get that because, we got to get on a plane or something, I really, really miss it. And so I would say for me, after so many years of really being alone in the world, that connection is what I look forward to most first thing.
So the one thing too about a relationship is that it's kind of an unfolding book. When you meet each other, it takes a while to discover things and figure each other out and all of that. It just does. What was the first surprisingly good thing that you figured out about each other that you always remember? You were like, I didn't realize that when you found out. And it just was like, that's cool.
For Jane, it's, why not? It's always the question that she always comes out. It's like, you want to go skydive. Okay, why not? Right. Or you want to start a business. Why not? What's stopping you? And, that question, it really jars me all the time, because growing up, with my father being a psychiatrist, he was always, why would you?
Yeah.
Right? And so there was always this box, or there was always this constraint. And so for her to always say, why not? Why not experience something new? Why not do something that your heart is pushing you to? Because life is short.
For sure.
For me, I grew up at a time when, it was a real man's world, and my dad, my brothers, the people I knew, the men I knew, were in that really chauvinistic kind of, almost predator kind of place. Like as a young girl, you'd walk past a construction site and these grown men would be catcalling you and stuff. And I always thought that's just how men were in the world. And one of the things that happened for us is after I had our child, I had a disorder that I kept gaining weight. And so like he, in our first year together, had to deal with me going from like 135 to like 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. And I remember him looking at me and he said, I was taught what beauty was too. And I have to learn what beauty is. And that you're beautiful to me, even though the world might not say that you're in that box. And for him to think outside of whatever the box is or the what the world is saying, the overculture is saying, that was really, really awesome.
So sometimes, we only get as good as we are because we stand on the shoulders of giants. We emulate goodness, people that are strong. Who's your favorite couple? Who's somebody that you emulate, somebody you look up to that makes you better?
Wow.
That's a great question. I'm not really sure if we have kind of a role model couple that we aspire to become.
We have a lot of teachers that we love.
We do have,
but not people. We don't know a lot of people doing this together.
So who would you consider a hero respectively for each of you?
I think Carl Jung is definitely a hero. John Gottman is a researcher that I followed for many, many years. And we had the pleasure of actually meeting, Dr. Gottman and Julie Gottman as well. I think that there have been leaders along the way that have given us the pieces, that have really helped us create our work over the years. And those people we actually have a lot of respect for. Sue Johnson with the emotion focused therapy. Don
Miguel
Ruiz, who wrote the book, The Four Agreements. Harville Hendricks, who created imago therapy. There are a lot of greats out there, that have given us the pieces. When it comes to kind of what we aspire to become, I think we look in the mirror a lot.
I would say too, well, another one of mine is Carolyn Mace. Carolyn Mace, she has a whole thing on spiritual development, which is a big way that I lean into the work that we do, because you can't really resolve a lot of the pain in this world from this mundane place. You got to look at this bigger picture. But I would say it's difficult to emulate a couple because I think most couples happen behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And what you see in the world, either you're not going to trust it or believe it, or they're not going to show you. And I would say that's true of us. We don't really show. I mean, we obviously through our work we do, but if you saw us in person, we're probably talking to other people. You wouldn't be like, oh, there's a,
Yeah.
Or what that would even look like. I mean, I think us all being lovey-dovey in front of people, I don't think that would be like.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just a front for, I mean, you can't really put a lot of stock. I remember one of the early books my wife gave me was was it the 5 Love Languages? Who wrote that?
I totally blanked on his name. Yeah.
Did you say Ruiz? Wasn't that?
No, that's the Four Agreements.
Ruiz wrote the 4 Agreements.
Okay.
Right.
I remember reading the love languages and how that was a big deal. Like when we were getting to know each other, like, because you assume there's this assumption because of the society putting these things down that every girl is going to like chocolate and roses, but that may not be their love language. That's why you have to figure out what it is. Cause it could be just simple affection. It could be words of affirmation. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things. And I think when I read that, I'd never really read anything like that, it made the most sense to me because we all are tailored and made so differently.
So we've read the book. The author, his name escapes us right now, but we read the book and it is fantastic when it comes to shifting your perspective, right? Shifting your perspective from within to without and looking at your partner, what your partner's needs are, right? Because most often today, people are focused on what can you do for me? Right? How can you meet my needs? But the book shifts it so that you start looking at your partner's needs and you start, looking from that perspective of giving versus getting. Okay. There's a piece that the book is missing though, and it's that added healing piece, All right. One of the things that we talk about in our program when we're working with couples is, the first initial part of working together is investment. And most couples aren't investing in the relationship at all. So they're not spending the time, they're not nurturing the relationship, they're not providing for their partner's needs. Once that is in place and they create a solid foundation of that, now the healing has to happen, right? And when we're talking about healing, we're talking about past wounds that each person has brought into the relationship that have existed their entire lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's Gary Chapman was the author of that book.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
That's it. I remember my dad didn't give me a whole lot of advice, but I remember early on he used to tell me, ask a lot of questions when you're with a girl. Just, pull, you know what I'm saying? Instead of, it's really good, I think, just in general too. You kind of take that onus, because we do think, we're generally, there's a level of us that's selfish. We're always looking for things, even if we're doing something that we think is noble, there's a level of us that it's going to be what's in it for us,
or trying to fix everything too.
Well, yeah, and I learned early on about that. That's when you listen and just keep the mouth shut,
Right. Right.
It's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
So, the love languages is interesting. We see people twist that a lot, and they'll say, my love language is gift giving, so you better give me a lot of gifts.
Right. Uh-huh.
And they're missing the whole point of it's really about putting those deposits into the relationship, because when you have to go do the difficult work, if we didn't start our mornings off with that bonding and connecting, and then he pisses me off during the day.
I never do that.
Yeah, right. I didn't think so.
There's no drive to work through that. And the drive then becomes, I'm going to go soothe myself with a screen or with other people or something else. And we weren't designed to have those things to soothe us.
Yeah.
We were designed to have to deal with the people in front of us.
Yeah.
And so the breakdown of our community, and, I love the movie Grumpy Old Men. There's these two guys that, they don't like each other and they fight all their lives. They know each other their whole lives, but if they really need something, they're there for each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes relationships are like that. It's really real to be in pain. We get wounded through relationship and we heal through relationship, and we can't help but step on our partner's toes. We just can't help it. Yeah. And when that happens, the first thing you want to do is blame the thing that's causing the immediate pain, but that's not really what we're talking about. And so those love languages of making those deposits, that's the first thing couples need to do. And then we teach the relationship skills, and then we teach them, guess what's underneath the reason it really hurts you when the dishwasher isn't that way. Right way. Mm-hmm.
So ultimately you're in the business of helping couples and helping people. What's one of your favorite client success stories?
I always think about John and Faith. I really do.
Yeah. Or Jim and Vera.
Yeah.
It's a good one. But John and Faith is a really good one.
So we can talk about John and Faith, and they've given us permission to talk about their story. But John and Faith came to us in 2021, January, February, somewhere around that time. And John had become really angry because he got really hooked into all the political stuff going on. So much so that he alienated his wife and his kids and his friends, and would have CNN on in every room in the house. And, and she just got to the point, she was like, I can't do this anymore. Either we're working on this relationship or I'm done. And, throughout the course of the work, John really started to realize what was really important in life, right? And what was truly a top priority versus everything else going on in the world that he had no control of. And probably about 6 months later, they wanted to go on they went on a vacation that they hadn't been on in so many years together. They wanted to get Dr. Ray and Jean tattoos. They unfortunately, Faith had to go to a family funeral, and someone had passed to COVID, and they both got COVID from going to that funeral. And, one night they both went to sleep and John never woke up.
Wow.
And at the wake, Faith said that if they had not done the work, she would have had a lot of regrets. And she knew that John died knowing that she loved him.
Wow.
And so that story, and John, he really reminds me on a daily basis of what's truly important, right? And that the fact that we don't have endless amount of time with our partner. In fact, every relationship, every marriage ends at some point. Yeah. And so what is the goal? It's not to live forever or to be together forever. The goal really is to learn what we're supposed to learn and to heal what we're supposed to heal with our partner, with the time that we have with them.
So what's the best advice for anyone out there that's thinking, I want to call them and hire them? What's the best advice, best couples advice that each of you can give right now?
I would say that you can't, the word synergy means the whole is greater than the parts. And like you said, we evolve over time. The person we were in our 20s, 30s, 40s changes, and we don't know ourselves. And we're so frustrated that our partner doesn't know us because we really don't know who we are. And so our main goal in working with people is that they become whole and healthy. They understand who they are, and our brain develops over time. And you really can't teach a 30-year-old the same thing you can teach a 50-year-old. You can't think like that yet. And so that personal development is such an important aspect of it, and managing yourself and your own emotions, and then being able to come up with your partner. And like you said, ask those questions, but you got to listen. We could ask the questions and never hear them. And we don't hear them because we're so busy with our own stuff. When you your own stuff in a place, not only can you communicate it clearly in a way they can hear you, but you also can offer them the opportunity to be understood as well.
I would add to that and say to people out there who are listening that don't settle in life. Too often people think that this is how things are supposed to be, and I just need to accept it. And that's not true. You can be happy, and you can be happy together. Does it take work? It does, but it does take not settling for what you have.
Yeah. Well, what do they say? You have 2 ear holes and 1 mouth. That's the whole thing. Hey, if anyone out there wants to reach out to you, learn more about you, hire you, where do they go? What's the best place to go?
Couplesynergy.com. That would be the perfect place to go. They can access our podcast there. They can contact us for a free consultation. In fact, for your audience, we wanted to offer a free gift, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What we'll do is we'll send you over a link. It's kind of a free little mini course on communication. Because most often couples come in to us and we ask them, what is bringing you in? They say, we have a communication problem. So, well, it's very simplistic. And
so we teach a lot of vocabulary.
Yeah.
not really. Not really. We give them a thesaurus. Here you go.
There you go. And the dictionary next week. Have a great life.
But it talks a little bit about communication and kind of how that really breaks down within a relationship, and gives couples a little bit, of some tips and tools that they can use.
Cool. Hey, thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for your time, your insights. I really appreciate it. Send my love to Colorado. I always miss it.
Will do. Thanks, Joe.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.